If you missed the Medical Journalists Association's fabulous awards evening, or were there and want to relive the occasion, this video will give you a little taster of the fun, chat and networking that went on at the Barber Surgeons Hall. And importantly, it shows the incredibly talented health and medical journalists whose excellence in reporting was rewarded with what are the Oscars of our industry, an MJA Annual Award. The evening was hosted for the second time by broadcaster and journalist Maxine Mulwiney, and we'd like to thank her and all our sponsors for making it such a great night. The first award, Blogger of the Year, was won by Eve Simmons, Deputy Health Editor of the Mail on Sunday, for her crusade about bad nutritional science, entitled Not Plant-Based.
It means so much. The MJA is such a prestigious institution, and it's so remarkable to be awarded something for the work that I do on my website, Not Plant-Based, which I run with another girl, Laura, all about helping people with eating disorders and also dispelling health myths and food fads, trying to encourage a positive, celebratory attitude to food.
Keeping with the food theme, the Charity Writer or Broadcaster of the Year award for the best written, visual or audio communications for a charity publication or website was won by Craig Brierley, University of Cambridge's website, on a subject entitled Why We Just Can't Stop Eating.
The whole point of the piece really was to get across how complex obesity is. People kind of lambast obese people as being greedy and lacking willpower. Actually, this was intended to show that it's really not as simple as that.
So a lot of work then, awful lot of work.
Yes, yeah.
The Regional Reporter of the Year award went to Jonathan Gibson from BBC Birmingham for his investigative piece on opioid addiction, on which he spent 6 months researching and reporting.
So this was a difficult category to judge. All the finalists had spent a lot of time and effort creating stories that were going to have impact in their local communities. However, the winner really stood out for us as being investigative journalism at its best.
The next award, sponsored by Sanofi, was for Newcomer of the Year. This was won by Elizabeth Mahays, Deputy News Editor of Pulse, for her pieces on awareness campaigns that risk distorting clinical priorities.
The judges were really impressed with the calibre of entries for this category. There were lots of wonderful entries with original and well-researched journalism. The particular one we went for was incredibly well-researched, backed up with solid interviews and sources, and really got to the heart of what is a really under-researched and under-knowledged issue in the NHS.
The Mental Health Story of the Year award was given to Angus Crawford and Tony Smith from the BBC 6 O'Clock News for their story Instagram Helped Kill My Daughter, about the suicide of Molly Russell.
The judges were particularly impressed at the richness and the range of the entries, but also excited that we found that investigative journalism, with its harsh questions, combined with compassionate human stories, is still alive and kicking today.
The next person to be called to the stage was Jo McFarlane, who was named Freelance of the Year, being recognised for 3 pieces of work she'd written for the Mail on Sunday. She was described by judges as being on top of her game.
The standard for Freelance of the Year this year was amazing. It was very, very difficult to actually separate 5 shortlisted entrants. But eventually we got a winner and very highly commended. I think what we found amongst the people who'd done particularly well was that they'd all written about a range of subjects and for different audiences, some very different audiences in some cases, which really demonstrated their skill, their knowledge and their enterprise. And I think that was the thing that really impressed us most.
The Case Study of the Year award, sponsored by Lily, was won by Caroline Scott, who wrote about how Felix White, the little boy who loved life, is helping other children battle the cruel disease that took him at just 6 years old.
The standard is always so high and everyone endeavours, and it's almost like you can't stop doing great stories. It feels really important if you win one of these awards. it feels incredibly special.
We then moved on to Feature of the Year for a specialist audience, and the award was given to Samira Shackle, writing for Mosaic, the Wellcome Trust, about violent crime being like an infectious disease.
So this was a topic that everybody's talking about and thinks is a good thing, but this article really looked at the background, the history, the evidence, different models, and produced a really interesting analysis of this important topic, which we hope will be implemented in many places now.
Features broadcast was won by James Gallagher and Adrian Washbourne from BBC Radio Science Unit with their Radio 4 programme on the Genome Project.
Oh, it's great to get this award. It's a joint production actually with the BBC Radio Science Unit for Radio 4 and also James from BBC Online as well, the health correspondent.
I also think there's something really nice about being awarded by your peers. You know, it's medical journalists judging other medical journalists, and to get the recognition of other people working in the same field you do is kind of like, it's always nice. You know, they're the people that know what it's like, and kind of like that always is quite rewarding.
Still with features, this time for a general audience and sponsored by Wiley, the award went to Patrick Strudwick from BuzzFeed for his article entitled "This is what it's like when your son dies from the chemsex drug GHB."
We were really fortunate with this category this year. It was a tremendous group of features to judge. The range was very wide, from foreign to home, web to print, and the subject matters were equally broad, but all of them really targeted at their audiences, and so we had to match the features to the audience and see who reached theirs best. Lots beautifully written, but happily we were pretty well unanimous on the end result, which made today's final judging really rather easy.
The News Story of the Year for a specialist audience was won by Sean Linton from the HSJ for his story about more maternity failings exposed at Shrewsbury Hospital.
It's really nice to be judged by my peers and stakeholders in our industry and recognised for that, and the buzz from that never goes away.
The award for the Broadcast News Story of the Year was won by Paul Kelso from Sky News, who with his team of Rachel Lucas, Matt Burge and Jeremy Joseph investigated the treatment of people with learning difficulties and autism.
There was a really strong entry in this category. The judges were looking for originality, for good storytelling and for compelling facts and figures, and we found them in spades. The winner, however, stood out above all the other entries.
Then it was News Story of the Year for a general audience, sponsored by Roche, which went to Helen McCardle from the Herald in Scotland.
We were looking for something which caused debate, told us something new and had an impact. And the winner is a really good example of good old-fashioned journalism, someone that sought out and found wrongdoing, and as a result got the law changed.
Michael LePage from The New Scientist won the Science Explained Award, sponsored by MSD, writing about a new kind of superfood.
So this year, the Science Explained category was really tightly contested. There were some fabulous pieces of writing in there. The winner was one that took a really quite contentious area of science and played with it and explored it in a way that we hadn't seen done before, and really helps the reader come to terms with something that is going to be part of their real life in the future.
And the next award was a brand new one, the Dr. Delvin Award for Sex and Sexual Health Journalism. This new award was the second win for Patrick Strudwick from BuzzFeed.
Well, I'm delighted really. These two awards were for two pieces that mean a great deal to me and mean a great deal to the LGBT community, which I write about in my job. So until people start talking, until awareness is raised, the issue doesn't get tackled. But the response to this story has been huge, and there's a lot more to come on that.
For the second year, we had a Media Campaign of the Year award, supported by the Healthcare Communications Association. And this was given to M&F Health for their work for the British Association of Sexual Health and HIV. The Editor of the Year award, sponsored by Edelman, was given to Justine Hancock, editor of the Daily Mail's Good Health section, who was congratulated for her pursuit of 2 topical campaigns that attracted national attention, public support and government action.
I think a lot of people who don't read the Daily Mail don't know the high quality of particularly health journalism that we have. And I think this is a recognition of all those writers who write for us, who are the best freelancers. We rely exclusively on freelancers, as you know, and we work with some truly, truly talented writers who don't get much recognition, and this is the partly for them, actually.
And then it was time for the final award of the night for Outstanding Contribution to Health or Medical Journalism, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb, the MJA's principal sponsors. And this year it was given to Angus Crawford, who'd already won in the mental health story category for his piece on the suicide of Molly Russell.
If anyone deserves this award, actually I don't think it's me, it is Molly Russell's father Ian, who incredibly bravely decided to talk about this, and not just talk about it, he wanted to know what had happened. He wanted to ask the really difficult questions. He wanted to speak truth to power. He wanted the big social media companies held to account. So in a sense, this award isn't really for me. I'm very lucky to have been involved in interviewing Ian, but if it goes to anyone, it should really be for Ian Russell.
At the end of the night, the award winners had their photos taken and then mingled with the journalists who'd been shortlisted for prizes and with sponsors and other members of the MJA who all thoroughly enjoyed this annual bash.